Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, and a very big special thank you for all your well wishes. And I've got to admit, in the 5 years of hosting this podcast, it has been one of the most difficult periods. But thankfully, with you all by my side, it's all getting much better, and normal service is about to be resumed. When I finally shake this COVID cough, that is. And ironically, as I took my eye off the ball, just getting myself well, listenership has doubled for the month of March. So a big special hello if you're a new listener to this podcast. And whoever you are and wherever you listen, remember, the way this show works is I invite a guest on every single day to share how technology is transforming the world. But at the end of it all, I'm going to hand the microphone back over to you so you can share your story, your insights, your experiences. That way, it is not my daily tech podcast at all. It's our podcast. So I just wanted to let all new listeners know that you are a big part of this podcast. And each day, I do love exploring areas that you don't associate with technology. And today, I want to talk about hearing, and more specifically, the hearing aid tech revolution, and how the hearing aid technology isn't what it used to be, and that can only be a great thing. So today's guest is a great guy. His name is Rick Ritter from Here.com, not to be confused with Rick Ritter from Shed 7. Sorry, I always like to try and squeeze in a few music references there, but Rick Ritter from Here.com, which is the largest online retailer of medical grade hearing aids. And they've also recently launched a wide range of hearing devices and have so much cool next-gen technology in these sleek and nearly invisible designs. So much has changed in this industry, and that's what I want to learn more about today. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to California so we can speak with Rick Ritter from Here.com. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Number one, thanks for having me, Neil. I'm super excited to be on the show. My name is Rick Rutter, and I work at Here.com. We're one of the fastest growing hearing care companies in the world. And just a little bit about me, I'm super passionate about what we do because I actually have suffered from hearing loss my whole life. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago that I tried my first set of hearing aids and saw what a difference it can make in my life. And now I'm on a mission with Here.com to get more people interested and aware and excited about what hearing aids can do for them as well.
Wow. And was that a condition that you were born with, or was it something that happened throughout your life?
Yeah, so it was when I was in the third grade, I actually had a condition called cholesteatoma. And so it actually eats away at some of the inner bones in your ears. So that's where I first developed the problem. But as a youngster, hearing aids, number one, 30 years ago, the technology wasn't all that great. And so when I tried hearing aids for the first time, it didn't sound good. And I really didn't think it was something that would improve my life, right? When I was little. And then over time, you kind of forget about it. And I learned how to read lips, and I learned how to, really ignore the problem as much as I thought I could. But yeah, it was something I grew up with, right? I guess.
And one of the reasons I was excited to get you on the podcast today is at Here.com, you're a specialist for hearing aids and hearing loss. But the reason I was really excited to get you on the podcast today is how have you seen technology advance and evolve throughout your career? Because you did kind of allude to it there that several years ago, or it wasn't that long ago, that technology was in its infancy. And let's be honest, it wasn't great and it was unsightly. But so much has changed since then. But how have you seen it change?
It's a great question. So much has changed, and technology overall is changing so fast, and hearing aids are no different. If you think about the size and the speed of the processors we use today to make sure that the sound is as clear as possible and as natural as possible, These are all things that are fairly new. I remember my grandfather wore hearing aids, and he was still having a hard time here. And I think that's one of the issues is a lot of people still have these preconceived notions that hearing aids will make you look old or sound old, but nothing could be further from the truth. Because I think over the past couple of years, like I mentioned, the processors are so much faster, they're so much smaller, and there's so many interesting things that are incorporated with hearing aids today. There's Bluetooth connectivity, so you can connect to your phone. There is the rechargeable, so you don't have to fumble with those tiny batteries. And it's super cool the types of things you can do with a smartphone app to adjust the sound based on your environment. And quite honestly, a lot of the newer hearing aids even have special algorithms that are able to figure out what environment you're in and actually adjust automatically based on that. So just like what we've seen with phones and computers and TVs and every other electronic, the way that hearing aids have evolved is amazing.
It is. It's incredibly cool as well. So I'm curious, do you think we are in a kind of hearing aid tech revolution right now? And if you do, I mean, what excites you about both what you're seeing and hearing in the industry right now?
It's a great question. I mean, I think there's absolutely a revolution in terms of hearing technology and hearing aids. And I think some of the things that are just really exciting is wearables in general are a lot more prevalent in today's culture. And so just as people are walking around with Bluetooth connected devices in their ears, and you see all of the different technology out there, I think these are the types of things that help us break down some of those old misconceptions and allow people to think about how this technology can really change their life and improve their day to day. One of the things that's also really exciting that I wish I would have mentioned earlier is even the way we're delivering care. That is changing today as well. For example, we're doing a lot just through COVID and the pandemic. It's sped things up, but we're actually delivering care over what we call teleaudiology. So we're able to send someone a tablet and some specialized equipment so that we can test their hearing, and we could actually fit them with hearing aids from the comfort of their own home. So a lot is happening in technology and in hearing care to deliver life-changing outcomes and to do it in ways that make it more accessible for more people. And I think that is extremely exciting.
And like we've been saying over the last few minutes, hearing aid tech is not what it used to be. And if we just tackle, let's say, one of the biggest misconceptions out there, and that's the size of hearing aids, they are incredibly tiny now, aren't they, compared to what they were a few years ago?
I mean, they're practically invisible. I mean, it's amazing how things have changed in terms of the appearance of hearing aids. There's hearing aids that can disappear practically inside of your ear, right? So that no one would even know that you're wearing them. And even the behind the ear devices that I think what most people think of when they think of a hearing aid, those devices are much slimmer and smaller, and most people can't even tell that you're wearing a hearing aid. And so I think there's so many ways that just that perception of what a hearing aid is so outdated. And most people, if you look at some of the wearables that people are wearing today, hearing aids are much more discreet than many of the most popular wearables out there. So it's I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to take another look at what the technology can do.
And before you came on the podcast today, I did do a little bit of research and quickly encountered that and quickly learned that you'd recently launched a next generation hearing tech over at hear.com. So is there anything you can expand on there and what excites you about those next generation releases?
Yeah, absolutely. So at hear.com, one of the things that we've had a lot of success with is really trying to get as close to our customers and the consumer as possible. And I think that's something that hasn't always been around in the hearing care space. And so based on all of the consultations we do with our customers, we've learned a number of things. And one of them is speech clarity is still to this day the most important feature of hearing aids. And so that's one thing where when we went in and we're looking to, develop our own device, we wanted to make sure that we not only carried over a lot of the best speech clarity technology, but we actually give our customers more control. And so through our Horizon hearing aid, you can not only, it comes with all the best, speech clarity and Bluetooth connectivity and rechargeability, but it also has these additional controls that allow you to hone in on sound with more control than any other hearing aid out there. And a great example of this is if you're in a restaurant, like I wear hearing aids and I still have a hard time hearing in a restaurant because there's so much noise. But with the Horizons, you can actually focus the sound into a much more narrow directionality, so you can focus on the person right in front of you and increase your clarity in some of those most difficult situations. So that's one of the features that our customers are really excited about. And then there's one other never been done with the Horizon, which is a feature we like to call relax mode. But many people don't realize, as you're starting to get used to hearing aids, there is a lot of adjustment that has to take place. And one of the cool things with relax mode is you can leave your hearing aids in and just tap into some sounds of the sea to allow you to relax and kind of kick back and make sure that it's not too much, right, in terms of an experience. So it's a nice feature to provide folks with the ability to like improve the adjustment, but also just kick back and relax when they need it.
And I also read that some of those devices are engineered in partnership with Siemens. So can you tell me more about that partnership and what that partnership brings to the table by working together?
Yeah, so they're just to correct you real quick. It's actually we partnered with Signia, which is one of the top hearing aid manufacturers across the world, and Signia, a lot of their engineers formerly did come from Siemens, right? So that's where some of that misperception comes from. But we like to remind a lot of our customers of that relationship, because a lot of the customers we have are a little bit more familiar with Siemens than Signia, just from their previous history. But we did create Horizon in partnership with Signia, and working with some of the best hearing aid engineers and manufacturers out there to develop a device that is really second to none.
And I also read that Here.com are planning on introducing groundbreaking new features of speech boost and Zen mode in those new devices. Is there anything you can expand on there as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Speech boost, I was telling you a little bit about earlier, and that is an amazing feature that allows us to really narrow in on speech clarity in some of those most difficult listening situations. So it allows you with the ability to control the directionality and the focus with our smartphone app. And you could actually narrow that down and make sure that you have the type of clarity for situations like meetings or restaurants, or even just when you're surrounded with a lot of noise. And so speech boost is one of the things that came out of just so many conversations with customers, and knowing that is one of the areas they really need the most help in. And then the relax mode is, we live in a noisy, busy world, and sometimes you just need a break. And so relax mode allows you to, get into that feature with the tap of a button, enable more of like a relaxing soundscape that just allows you to kick it down a notch, relax, and just take your mind off things. And so both of these features are things that we heard a lot from our customers when we were going through the development process, and I'm really excited to provide them with these because they're not available with any other hearing aid out there.
And one of the things I've been really curious about, and I'm glad to get you on the podcast to ask this today, is that now that more and more people are using high quality headphones to play their music very loud, and when they're not doing that, they've still got their headphones on for Zoom or Microsoft Teams meetings, etc. I'm curious, is there a problem of audiences damaging their hearing at a younger age because they're so reliant on headphones now, or are there any other trends that you're particularly noticing in the industry?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean, unfortunately, yes, hearing loss is on the rise, and it's not going away anytime soon. And I think all the things that we do as younger people, right, whether it's listening to music too loud, or even listening, to your point, with headphones and devices that are inserted into our ear, that does real damage, and it does long-term damage. I just saw World Hearing Day was Wednesday of last week, and the World Health Organization talked about how hearing loss is on the rise across the world, because of not only the use of headphones and wearables that we insert into our ears, but also because our world as a whole is also a lot noisier than it used to be, especially if you're in like an urban environment. So yeah, it's something as just in terms of noise pollution, things of that nature. Unfortunately, hearing loss is here to stay, and it's not getting any better, even though we continue to talk about all the preventative things that folks should do.
And finally, are there any myths or misconceptions around hearing or hearing technology that often might be guilty of frustrating you, that you just want to lay to rest once and for all today?
Absolutely. I mean, it's there's actually quite a few misconceptions. And I think one of the biggest ones is that hearing aids will make you feel or look old.
Yeah.
And that could not be further from the truth. And the reason being is, I mean, even as I'm 45 years old, and I'm a proud hearing aid wearer. I will tell you that I have more energy because I'm not struggling and straining to hear conversations. I also, it's interesting, the devices I wear, nobody can see them, right? And so a big piece of that is, at least for me, right, I can tell you that hearing aids keep you connected into the conversation. They allow you to have like a greater mental sharpness and be engaged with your conversation partners, and they really do provide you with more energy because you're not struggling and straining to hear what's being said. So I do think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. The second one that I'd love to share with you is, many people think hearing loss is a problem with volume, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Hearing loss is actually a problem of clarity, not volume. So many people hear that there's noise and someone's talking to them. Unfortunately, they just don't know what's being said. And so that's what hearing aids allow us to do, is clarify the speech, allow you to hear what people are saying, and be more engaged with your surroundings. And then I'll just round it out with one other misconception, is that a lot of people see hearing aids being sold online, and the issue is that many of those are simply sound amplifiers. They're just increasing the volume, and they're not providing that clarity, and that can actually damage people's hearing even further. So if you think you have hearing loss, it's super important to engage with a hearing care professional, either an audiologist or a hearing instrument specialist, to be able to get your hearing tested and actually go out and get real medical grade hearing aids to help solve your problem, because anything less than that, unfortunately, could do more damage than good. Those are probably the three biggest misconceptions we often see.
And for anyone that would like to dive a little bit deeper into the topic of hearing technology and the advances in the industry and how it's evolving and some of those new devices that you've mentioned there today, what's the best way of doing that? And equally contact your team members as well.
Absolutely. Just go to hear.com, HEAR.com, and you can easily share with us your information. And we have a team of experts to help you in a variety of aspects so that you can find the right care and the right hearing aids to address your needs.
Fantastic. Well, I've loved chatting with you today, hearing more about the hearing aid tech revolution and how the hearing aid tech is not what it used to be. And there's so many great, exciting things happening in the industry at the moment. So I urge people to check that out. But more than anything, just thanks for taking a few moments to sit down and talk with me today, Rick.
Thank you so much, Neil. The pleasure was all mine.
Rick was a fantastic guest with great audio quality to boot, which always goes down well with me as a host. But hearing his personal story and how hearing technology has transformed his life is truly inspirational. And let's be honest, hearing is something that many of us will probably take for granted as we ram those earbuds tightly into our ears and turn the volume up to 11. But our world is becoming increasingly very noisy now, and as a result, hearing damage is on the increase. But my big takeaway from today's interview is that hearing technology is helping those affected live a normal life. And that can only be a great thing. But for anyone listening, I invite you to share your experiences with hearing technology, both good and bad, and what you've seen change over the years, by emailing me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Connect with me, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, etc., just at Neil C. Hughes. And you'll also find over 1,500 interviews with other tech leaders over at my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. But we've reached the end of another episode, so I will meet you all, same time, same place tomorrow. We'll do it all again. But more than anything, a big thank you to Rick for joining me on the podcast today, and an even bigger thank you to each and every one of you for putting a bit of time aside to sit down with me today. So a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.